The number one thing you've got to remember when you're making a research poster is that you want everyone to think that you are better than them. And that is really easy to achieve. And I'll show you the tips in this video for making sure people look at your poster and understand that you are an actual genius. So the first thing is, don't even bother using your university template. A lot of universities give out the template and they say, oh, use this. But the problem is, if you are making posters like everyone else, how are people meant to know that you're the best? So what I like to do is start with a plain template like this. This means that you've got full control over making sure that your audience member, the person looking at this poster, knows that you are not only better than them, but also probably more likely to succeed in life just in general. And that's what I really like to express when people are looking at my posters. So next, we need to look at structure. With a blank sort of like page like this, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but I like to put in the general structure of things. So I will insert just different sort of boxes to say, okay, well, this is where the title will go. We don't need to worry about design at the moment, but that's where the title will go. And then we'll put some more stuff in. So if someone's looking at your poster and they just can't follow the structure that you want them to follow, they're clearly not clever enough to look at your poster and therefore worthy enough to even be talking to you. So what I like to do is make sure that I have just random boxes where I will add information. You know, here could be like the introduction, down here could be actually the second part. We want them to go down there, and then we'll just sort of like put in a general structure and we'll say, okay, yeah, like this. And you know, don't even bother following columns. Columns are for squares. You are an innovator. You want to make sure that there's all sorts of stuff. So look, let's just put that, let's have it overlapping, because if you need this little bit of text here to understand your poster, then clearly they're not clever enough. So let's have a look. Let's actually, yes, just overlap another one. Why not? So this is the sort of structure I like to create while creating my post. Oh, I've got a bit too many columns there. Let's make this one a bit longer. And so there we are. So I may start by putting the introduction here. I may then sort of like put something down here that they need to understand, and we'll leave some white space because we'll be using graphics later on to really sell this poster. So if they can't follow this structure, don't worry about it. Let them walk past because they're clearly not worthy. The second thing you need to worry about is that sort of information. So I'm going to take information from one of my papers. So I'm going to take it from this one, and let's just say, okay, well, let's just start copying and pasting across. Now, make no effort whatsoever to try to make this sort of like understandable to people that are not as clever as you, because at a conference or at a poster presentation session, you only really want the people that aren't idiots speaking to you. And by doing sort of like this process of just copying and pasting across information, that means then you'll be assured that the people that do actually come up and talk to you are people that are worthy of your time. And that's the most important thing about all of this sort of like scientific networking, is that you want to make sure you're always top dog. How you do that? You make sure that idiots are filtered out before they even get to you, which is just a fantastic part of science. Okay, let's say I want this abstract. So I'm going to copy and paste this abstract just straight into where I think it's best. Now, don't worry about your audience. Don't even think about them. I'm going to put it in this box, actually. And we'll also just make that a little bit bigger, just so that they can get a little bit further away from you, because quite often as academics do smell. You can see I haven't highlighted this part here, but don't worry about that. They're not going to be reading all of it to understand, because if they have to read all of it, they're probably not all there. And so that's all right. So go through and put all of the information in these boxes. And we do want to make sure that, you know, there's an obvious flow for you. And if it's obvious to you, then it doesn't matter if it's not obvious to other people, because clearly you shouldn't be talking to them. So this is the abstract. We'll put the abstract in there. Look, don't even worry about too much text. I like to think that the more text is on your poster, the better. And that is because if someone is overwhelmed by the amount of text on your slides or your posters, that really tells you that they are anti-scientific. Because what we want is people to come to you who are just amazed by the fact that you have produced something they struggle to understand. And that just works well for everyone. So yeah, go through and just copy and paste. Now, the next thing is I would probably just start looking at graphs as well. So go through whatever paper, whatever you're creating, and just have a look. Like, we clearly want these equations on our poster, because what will happen is that if they are unexplained, then it will help people understand that this science is probably far too complicated for them, and therefore are more likely to consider you a genius. And that's what this really is all about. Look, let's make that box a little big. This is really coming along so nicely. So yeah, we'll put that in there. Let's just give it no context, because what we really want to do is encourage people to speak to us and be intimidated by how much we probably know more than them. And so by putting in different figures just in random spots, like go through, make sure you get a load of different types of figures that really are the most impressive ones in your arsenal of images. And don't even, like I said, don't even worry about the captions. There's no need to show people how to interpret most images, because if they don't know, then they're probably going to have a small meltdown, which works in your favor, which is great. So add the information. Here we are. This is coming on really nicely. Make sure you include lots and lots of text, because otherwise, how otherwise are people going to know that you know more than them? And also colors, right? So we've not really touched the colors yet, but let's have a look. I really think, and I think this is something that a lot of people don't use in their posters, is really bright colors, because you don't want yours to be this dull gray thing in the corner of the room. You want yours to stand out. In fact, if it's not a bit painful to the eyes, is it really a poster? That's what you've got to ask yourself. So I like to go in and I like to sort of like just change the design of things. And let's have a look. Let's just use more colors, because this gives you the whole rainbow to choose from. And these are the colors I like to use. Look how beautiful these are, nice and bright. So we're going to say, okay, that is perfect. Oh, this is probably going to be one of the best presentations I've ever produced, because it's just really coming together. And that's the one thing about presentations, is it works best if you have no plan in mind, because then it comes to you organically. And I find the best way to understand what people need to know is by being a little bit haphazard, I guess is the word, in the way that you bring this together. It's always worked for me. I've won plenty of poster prizes and, participation prizes for this sort of stuff. Let's add another color just to show you the sorts of colors we should be thinking about and adding to our poster. Oh, that is just brilliant. And don't even worry about the contrast, because you want people to get close to your poster, because then if they're close to your poster, they're close to you, and you can whisper into their ears like, I'm better. And that is just like a social engineering thing that I've learned throughout my time in academia that really helps solidify you as top dog in that room, which is really great. So bright colors really help sell your poster. Make sure you add lots. Now, you'll be saying to yourself, Andy, I'm a bit confused, and that's because you're not as clever as me, and I get it. But this is now, like, there's some white space, and white space is great. In design, white space helps the eye relax. So we don't want people feeling relaxed when they're looking at this this image, or your poster. So they're already attracted, they're already in there. And you know what? Add graphics. I like to add graphics, and there's one thing in the world that is just true, whether or not you're in academia or outside of academia, is sex sells. So yeah, so we're just looking for sexy images. I think there's nothing sexier than a ripped shirt, because it says to the world like, oh, I'm nude under here, but ripped shirt, but you can't quite see it. Oh, this is perfect. This is actually better than I ever thought it could be. So I'm going to take this image. Oh, can I get the image? Don't worry about copyright and all that sort of stuff. Like, that's for losers. You are not a loser. You're an academic. So click there, and let's just see if this will help us. Okay, great. This is working now. So we can go in here. And I think this is probably the best way to get people. Remember, sex sells. So we'll just move this over a little bit, so it doesn't matter if a bit's clipped off. People should be able to understand like the end of sentences if they're a bit clipped off. But this is how we attract them to our poster, is this sexy image. And look, that's my opinion on what's sexy. You all have your own thing, but ripped shirts really are just the one thing that I think is ubiquitous across the world to attracting people. So ripped shirts is what I really like. So we'll put that ripped shirt on there, and you can see this is already coming together so well. We'd probably add some text in here. I'll just put some filler text. It doesn't matter that it's not the same size as everything else. We could probably just change it to a different text as well, just to kind of like, you know, we want people to feel a bit uneasy while looking at our poster, because that brings up the cortisol levels and it makes sure that they're on edge while speaking to you. And by being on edge, they'll understand that like you're a better academic than them. And I think that's probably the most important thing about all of this. So here's a really confusing script. Let's put that in. Let's make it a bit bigger, just so people, you know, do have to really concentrate on that box. And really, this is probably one of the better posters I've ever produced. Here's some extra bonus tips. So when you go to your conference, make sure your poster is up really high, because what you want people to feel when they're looking at your poster is this impending sense of doom. If it's at eye level, it shows them that they are at the same level, like metaphorically, spiritually, as your poster. By your poster looking down on them, it really is like you looking down on them. And I think that's probably the best start to any academic relationship. And another thing I like to do is, if anyone asks me a question about my poster, I often lower my voice, because lower voices really sort of like help you show dominance in an academic situation. So I'll lower my voice, and then I'll say something along the lines of like,
I'm not surprised you don't understand this.
I think that's a really great way to start any academic conversation, and also to be like,
oh, that doesn't surprise me coming from someone of your ability.
It's just sort of like a great way to start that academic relationship, because this is now, remember, any academic relationship is a tussle for being the best. You know, you do this to 5 or 6 people, your personal and professional brand will only grow from there. And I think that is such a fantastic sort of way to start any academic career. And the final tip I've got for you, and one of the most important ones I think, is grow a beard. Because growing a beard does 2 things. Firstly, it gives people a chance to see from a distance that you're better than them. And that's what I really like about having a beard, is that, you know, in academic circles throughout millennia, the people with the beards are the cleverest. And if you encounter someone else with a beard, then it's all on. You fight to the death. And that's why I had to leave academia, is because I was too good at fighting to the death. And the second thing about growing a beard is that if you rub it a little bit, it does activate your brain follicles and does actually increase your IQ points by probably about, I'd say, 20 to 30 IQ points. So don't worry about rubbing your beard in public when you're thinking about things, because it only makes you better than the general public by so much more. And yeah, that's how I create the world's best academic poster for any conference. If you like this video, go check out this one where I talk about actual advice for producing great scientific and research posters. Go check it out.